This is the Bradenton Blitz, and this is Jason Dill, and I'm joined by David Wilson, as always. This is the final Bradenton Blitz of the football season because, as you look, we are still here at the Bradenton Herald and not in Orlando getting ready for state championship week because Braden River fell to Fort Lauderdale St. Thomas Aquinas 27-10. Myself and Alan Dell were there covering the game with a column and a gamer that you guys can read on bradenton.com/sports or on the Varsity 24/7 app, which you can find on the Google Play Store for Android users or the iTunes Store for iPhone users. But David, you also made a surprise visit. You were there helping out with video, which is also on the web. And what were your overall thoughts of what you were able to see from Aquinas and Braden River?
In the week, we talked about how we essentially figured it was going to be a pretty low-scoring game, and it was for most of the game. It was, after some early scores, it settled into kind of, I think, the pace we expected. And another thing we talked about is just how St. Thomas Aquinas had a lot more talent. And you could kind of tell Braden River got up early. They threw a lot at St. Thomas Aquinas, really opened their playbook early on. But then in the end, St. Thomas Aquinas just more talented. I think, at least I expected that in the end that would win out and help them win in the third and fourth quarters of the game, which happened. So it played out pretty similar to how I think we expected it. Braden River, obviously, an awesome season for them, but St. Thomas Aquinas just a little bit too much everywhere on the field.
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts were that obviously Aquinas had a lot of talent on the field. To me, the difference maker really was, if I had to pick one play, it was going to be the fumble at the end of the first half that led from Jacob Huseman, where he was rolling out of the pocket, got sacked on his blind side, and coughed up the ball, and Aquinas took over near midfield and then ran down and scored a touchdown before the end of the first half to take a 21-10 lead, which was the biggest margin of deficit that Braden River had faced all season. It's not an offense that's built to come back from large deficits. They like to run the football time and time again before setting up a play-action pass, so it's not designed and geared toward that. So that would be the one specific play from the first half, as well as a big momentum change, as well as the strip fumble recovery by Noah Arce that there was mad confusion going on when it was still 21-10. That could have brought Braden River back into the game late in the second half as we were moving from the third quarter to the fourth quarter. But the big takeaway, aside from those two plays, was the fact that Braden River's defensive line and offensive line, which had really done a good job of anchoring both successful units, with the defensive line putting the pressure on quarterbacks, wasn't really there because Aquinas' offensive line did a great job of preventing that from happening, as well as the offensive line, which did a very good job on the opening drive of going 9 plays and 80 yards to score an opening touchdown, was kind of pushed around a little bit when we got toward the second half, and Braden River's offense wasn't able to generate the consistency that they had in that first opening drive. And that's a byproduct of Aquinas having a lot of big bodies on the defensive line, and it was something that I had not seen from Braden River's team this year because they just were outmatched.
Right, in this area where they played most of their games, in the county and along the west coast of Florida, they probably had the best offensive line in this region.
Oh, easily.
And definitely one of the best defensive lines. And I think we knew it. St. Thomas Aquinas was going to be the toughest defensive line they've faced all season and the toughest offensive line they've faced all season. And even with the Aquinas defensive line missing Nick Bosa, whose brother is Joey Bosa, he's one of the top recruits in Florida.
And the nation.
Well,
he's probably going to end up at Ohio State, where he's committed to.
Even without him, they actually weren't quite as big as I think we expected, but they're talented, and they're bigger than most defensive lines Braden River has faced this season. And Braden River was good this year largely because of their lines. On offense, pretty much anyone they put back at running back was effective. On defense, the pressure they put on quarterbacks let them
28
create turnovers.
28 interceptions.
Create
in 14
turnover.
games. In 14 games, a 13-1 season. I mean, that's incredible.
A crazy rate.
And they have it moving in the right direction because Kurt Bradley, they started out, lost the first 9 games of his tenure when they were all when they were freshmen. Most of the guys were freshmen. They're losing 19 seniors, so there's 19 kids, so that's a lot. they turned it around to go 6-4 the next year, and eventually went undefeated in the regular season last year before losing in the second round of the playoffs to a very good Tarpon Springs East Lake team that lost in the state semifinals to St. Thomas Aquinas. So no shame. St. Thomas Aquinas is the one that's the wrench in the plans this year, but Bradley now has a 667 winning percentage in his
Despite
4 years.
losing his first 9 games.
Which is incredible,
Yeah.
right? I mean, and that's the thing. He's really turned it around. The culture's been changed. It wasn't a football school back in the back then. It had lost its way, and now it is kind of a football school. People want to play for Kurt Bradley. People want to play for that coaching staff. Eric Sanders on the offensive coordinator position has done a great job. I mean, he called a masterful game to get them in position to score that opening drive, and they also had a couple calls go their way. But when we asked him afterwards, the big difference for them that was a key loss was that with Raymond Thomas's injury, which happened at the end of the regular season, he was the biggest threat or weapon in both the running and passing game, and that sort of could have been an integral part or piece to an upset by Braden River at home against St. Thomas Aquinas in the semifinal this past Friday. And missing him was key, but they still had, like you said, Dexter Hodo ran for a bunch of yards after coming in, and he moved from slot receiver to running back, and he helped out and did a good job. But yeah, 19 seniors is going to be tough, but I think they're going to be okay because the way their system works, an overabundance in linebackers, so replacing Ronnie McClellan and Chase Bailey, who was a captain both out of the linebacking core, and JoJo Lewis, who's a hybrid who played nickel linebacker in addition to playing defensive back, won't be too much of a strain because you have Chase Knopf, who suffered a huge, serious injury
It looked to be serious.
Looked really well, right? Looked very serious. He was stretchered off after being down for about 30 minutes after a tackle, and gave a thumbs up to the crowd as he was being stretchered off, and then later tweeted out that he was going to be released from the hospital. It was just a strained neck muscle. So his injury, McClellan also was injured and couldn't return for the second half. So Knopf, though, was splitting time on the weak side defensive end position this all year with Paul Wiggins. Those two guys are linebackers by trade, so they can replace those two linebacking spots. So they just need to find some linemen to shore up what they have, especially because Dylan Tyson's going to be graduating as well. So without those guys, what are they going to do? And then you have, but the offensive side of the ball is where the real key is, because they're going to be losing 9 guys off of there, including quarterback Jacob Huseman, who's going to FIU.
Yeah, that's obviously the question with them next year, and the question with a lot of the county every year is who's going to play quarterback, how effective can that quarterback be. Nate Strauderman was the backup this season, got a little bit of action down the stretch after Braden River was locked into its postseason spot. I don't think anyone expects him to walk in and be Jacob Huseman, who, as we noted, is a Division I quarterback. But Braden River's offense and Eric Sanders' offense is pretty quarterback friendly. Obviously, they lean on the running game a lot, and if Raymond Thomas, who tore his ACL, comes back at full strength, they'll lean on him a lot next year. But in general, the quarterback just has to make quick decisions, a lot of screen passes, a lot of quick curls, a lot of slant routes in the middle of the field. They get their slot backs a lot, which was Dexter Hodo early in the year. Before he switched over to running back, he was leading the team in catches. Just evidence of how much they like to use those guys. So Strauderman's not going to be able to make the big throws or right away probably that Huseman can make, but if he can manage the game, their offense, just based on the system they have and the running backs they have returning, Deshaun Fenwick will be a junior. He's kind of the big guy to balance with Raymond Thomas. Then the offense still, I think, should be pretty effective. And
the question will be, and Sanders, who's the offensive coordinator, to me, I think that guy's going to tailor a playbook to fitting the personnel.
Right, exactly.
And he did that in spades this year in the last couple of years with Jacob Huseman as his quarterback. So I think Braden River will be fine. I think they're they started to build something there. It's a football tradition now where it wasn't before, and I think that people are excited about playing for Braden River High School now. There's a lot of pride out there. I mean, look, there were 4,000 roughly people there with a gazillion media members, joking aside. But yeah, there were a lot of people out there. Area coaches were all out there. I mean, everybody was kind of taken in that game, and it brought back memories for me of the last semifinal I covered, which was in 2011 when I was following Palmetto's run before they got beat by Duke Johnson, Miami Norland, at Harley Stadium up in Palmetto. And that was a magical run, too, where everybody was packed, and it was a great atmosphere. And same thing happened on Friday night, and I think that you're going to see something possibly be created. But at the same time, people need to have a sort of more realistic goal that it's very difficult to get to a state semifinal. It's very, very difficult. Contrary to belief, because Manatee has made it look kind of seamless getting to a bunch of state semifinals in recent years, as well as St. Thomas Aquinas, who, if we spin it forward, they're going to probably win their 9th state championship, which would be one more than Manatee County has altogether, with Manatee having 5, Southeast having 2, and Palmetto having the other one, when they take on Vieira out of Melbourne, Florida. Don't know much about Vieira. They haven't won a playoff game in their history until this season. Aquinas is Aquinas. Everybody saw them on Friday night. I think Aquinas is going to win that one in a walk. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we're on the same page. We both, I think, said that Braden River Aquinas probably could be the de facto state championship. They're 1-2 in the AP poll, 1-2 in pretty much everyone's opinion. Aquinas will have too much talent. Again, not knowing much about Vieira, just knowing how good Aquinas can be.
Sure. And there were two other plays that we had discussed earlier that could have been momentum changing for Braden River, which was after they had taken a 7-0 lead on their opening drive, they gave up a score kind of quick on Aquinas' opening drive. Braden River's second possession, they get it down into the red zone. They have a chance to pick up a first down, pass over to Travis Williams. He jukes out a couple of Aquinas defenders, picks up the first down. It's going to be 1st and goal for Braden River. Next thing you know, a flag's coming out. Illegal formation on Travis Williams as a wide receiver lined up incorrectly. That costs Braden River because they get sent back 5 yards from the line of scrimmage. They don't pick up the first down on 3rd down. They're forced to kick a field goal. Kyle Toma does make it. It's 10-7, but then Aquinas comes right down and scores another touchdown, and you feel the momentum kind of slip away. And then, of course, the big play with the turnover that resulted in a touchdown. That was pretty much, you kind of think, there's another half to go, but you could kind of feel it in the air that might have been the game. And I mean, Braden River needed to play a clean game, and they didn't have it done. I mean, they committed 5 turnovers in total, 2 interceptions, a fumble, 1 on downs, another 1 on downs 2 on downs, 1 when they tried to do a fake punt that didn't work out in the 4th quarter. But to credit to them, they held Aquinas to only 6 points in the second half, both on field goals, when Aquinas was probably going to turn it in the end zone. And we talked about the Noah RC play where that was a pivotal play too, because it could have made it 21-17, where James Charles for Aquinas is running up and gets tackled. The head referee's doesn't whistle anything, and RC ends up with the ball and then runs back. And when he's crossing the 50-yard line, they're blowing the whistle dead, and then they confer and they say, no, it was forward progress. Braden River goes crazy. They confer again. They get the call right, saying it was a fumble. But, of course, head coach Kurt Bradley after the game said, well, why aren't we getting the ball and going the other way with the touchdown? If we get the ball, why isn't it a touchdown? Because there was no whistle called. And as we noticed, because we saw it on video after the play happened, that they actually did get the call right because RC's knee was on the ground.
Yeah, that Braden River, like you said, had to play pretty much flawless. All season long, they really took care of the ball. 3 turnovers, not including the 2 on downs this game. It's hard to beat a team with the talent Aquinas does if you make mistakes. When you have talent like Aquinas does, it kind of covers up some of the errors you make. Braden River just didn't have that margin for error against St. Thomas Aquinas. And you mentioned again the 2 calls that kind of go against them. The RC one we know they do end up getting right, but it was just breaks that Braden River could have used to get back in the game that didn't necessarily go their way. Even after the Travis Williams penalty, Huseman just misses Jalen Austin on a wheel route in the end zone. Yeah, another close play that could have gone Braden River's way.
Right, and
they needed a couple more of those to go their way.
Yeah, they ended up, in this one other sequence, they ended up forcing a field goal from Aquinas, where they had a 3rd down situation go down, and Roman Grissett, who's in the ball game, he's a senior. He's in the ball game because Ryan McClellan gets injured, and they have to move JoJo Lewis out of the secondary to play linebacker. Grissett comes off the bench to play defensive back and play cornerback, and he's on the play, and he tips the ball and it ends up deflecting right to Michael Irvin Jr.
It was just those plays that
they just
didn't go their way.
Right,
they could have used one break.
Right, and when all of those things are going your way as a team, I mean, it's just very difficult to win any football game, let alone a state semifinal, let alone a state semifinal against St. Thomas Aquinas, which has just been a behemoth in the state of Florida. But it's been a fun football season, and we'll be back here on the Blitz to discuss some winter sports coming up soon. But until next time, you can if you need to catch our stories about the state semifinal run for Braden River, some videos from that night, if you want to relive the action, you can on Varsity 24/7. Also, Bradenton.com/sports. You can follow us on Twitter. DB Wilson 2.
DB Wilson 2. Number 2.
Alan, right? Alan Dell, which is AD Sports, or you can follow myself, which is Jason __. That's 2 underscores. So Jason __Dill. And you can follow us and for all the latest news that's going on in the high school scene and beyond here in Manatee County. But until next time, this is Jason Dill for David Wilson, and we'll catch you on the flip side.